So in no particular order, may we please turn on our videos and do a round of introduction? Or if I can just make use of the information I have here, I could call out one by one. Yes, Her Excellency Nantongo. May you please turn on your video and introduce yourself?
Yes, please. Is it still morning?
Yes.
Good morning, my dear. Good morning, my dear honorables. My name is Nantongo Bashira, Guild President, Islamic University in Uganda Female Campus, and a former candidate in the constituency of Bashira North as the direct member of parliament on the FDC ticket, though we didn't manage to make it.
Okay, you had your victory postponed. Thank you.
Yeah.
The gender minister in MUBS Nakawa, and also aspiring for Vice President Musa. Thank you.
Yes, Your Excellency Mbaziira John. Yeah. We can't hear you. Please first unmute your microphone.
Good morning to you all. I'm Mbaziira John Snr, Guild President Kyambogo University. I'm also a student activist, also an operations coordinator in People Power Institutions, the incumbent Kyambogo University. It's my pleasure meeting you all and knowing all other colleagues. You're all welcome for this engagement.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. It's a pleasure to have you on board.
Thank you.
Your Excellency Agaba.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Agaba Kenneth Amponda, the 23rd Guild President of Uganda University, main campus, Mukono. And I'm so much privileged to be engaging with the excellencies in this conversation. And also, I'm contesting for the office of speakership in UNSA, and at the same time, a student activist in terms of the education policy that we have in our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Agaba. We are glad to have you on board. From my records here, it appears like so far, those are the panelists we have online. Oh, His Excellency Ssempijja is here. Yes, Your Excellency, may you kindly turn on your video and introduce yourself? Your Excellency Ssempijja?
Yes, I am changing the settings to turn on the video.
Okay, in the meantime, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Ssempijja Ivan, and I am a 5th-year student of medicine and surgery from Makerere University, and I'm the 86th Guild President of Makerere University.
Very glad to have you on board, Your Excellency. So without much ado, I think let's dive back into our discussion. Your Excellencies, as you must already be aware, world over historically it's known that the student movement is usually the anchor of social political transformation in any society. And we know that what happens in institutions of learning usually ends up happening in the national body politic. And so this conversation is meant to give us a picture of what is happening in universities and possibly how the same can be used to transform our national politics. So the topic of discussion once again is political participation in universities is the ground level. And as was already guided, we have 2 hours. And so that means each one of us will have an opportunity of about 25 minutes to share, which we will size up in different questions. And so for starters, I'm going to give each one of us 3 minutes to give an introduction of your understanding of the topic and your experience in your university, and then we can proceed on to the other question. And I'm going to start with Your Excellency Ivan Ssempijja. Okay, it appears His Excellency still has some issues. So maybe let me move to Julia Muhumuza.
Thank you. I was only hoping I wouldn't go fast, but here I am. Once again, yes, you know, it's always much better for you to first hear from everyone, and then you get to have an enlightened or an informed opinion about things. So once again, I'm Julia Muhumuza from Makerere University Business School. The topic of the day requires us to know whether we have leveled leadership participation in our universities. And to me, I think it's 2-way in terms of it stands out, be it a guild president, GRC, it is open, like anyone can take it up on, but the factors that come into play make the ground so unfavorable or unleveled actually. Because when you look at the existing within our spheres of deciding who should be the leader, right from the primaries to campaigns and then to actually the box itself, there are very many factors that come into play as having external forces that are not even students participate in our elections, make all our participation unleveled, because you could be a capable leader, but because maybe you're affiliated to a weaker party or a party that is unpopular, then it's quite unfortunate for you. Then gender-wise, myself coming from an institution that has over 70% or over actually 60% or 70% females, we have a history or a trend of having only one guild president ever since our existence that was female. The question is not about ladies being exempted from participating. We actually have few of them actually take up the mantle, despite the fact that very many of them would want to participate. And when you go ahead to inquire, or some of us who have taken up the mantle to participate, you realize there are very many existing stereotypes from the female gender itself to the girl child is also a factor. And we feel like there is so much to do to encourage girls to take up space, and which is something being ignored, because if we have more females take up space in terms of participation, in case we have a guild race and then we have about 3 of them participating, it increases the likelihood of them also participating in this leadership. And then religion-wise, coming from Makerere University Business School that is not affiliated to a religion per se, specific religion per se, it is a leveled ground, because despite of your religion, as long as a leader, when you come out, you show that you are for everyone, you are for the Christians, you are for the Muslims, then it is a leveled ground for you. And in conclusion, in these brief minutes, I think it is more to, despite the factors that are into play, it still goes back to the leaders that choose to take up space, to participate in serving people. Because you see, even if we say that in our universities, few females have been guild presidents, there are still other girls that have made it to be guild presidents in certain universities. So even if we say that certain political parties are unpopular and cannot make it in certain universities, we still see these people being elected. So I think despite other factors that make the ground unfavorable for the different leaders that come out to take up space, it is always up to them to try to make it as leveled as possible. So for them, so that they can be directly positioned to, be in position to serve. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Julia. Certainly you have raised some issues and questions that I'll be coming back to you to answer. Maybe I should also mention to you that I had the opportunity of serving with possibly the only female guild president, MUBS, Her Excellency Agaba Screen. I served with her as President Muhumuza. She was Vice President, but His Excellency Ssempijja says he's now ready. So, Your Excellency, you have 3 minutes to make introductory remarks. Please unmute your,
Yes,
thank
am
you.
I audible enough?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe let me dwell with this. I think it is the essence of having online meetings so that we can dwell with these things as well. Yes, thank you so much. Ssempijja Ivan is my name once again, and I'm the 86th Guild President of Makerere University. In as regards the topic, because the question was a crystal clear one, is there a leveled field in leadership participation in universities? Yes, first and foremost, I would like to make a general comment because these universities, just like you said earlier, these universities are actually the epicenter of national leaders. These are the harbors for national politicians. To a larger extent, I will say yes, there is a leveled ground because we don't have any restrictions. We don't have any restrictions for running for any of these positions at university level. I'll give an example of our recently concluded election, where as I was running Judith Nalukwago's campaign, because I happened to be the campaign manager, her campaign manager, and she was a winning candidate. That is the honest truth. Despite her gender, she was a female, but I was very convinced that she was actually winning. She was going to become the guild president. But to a lesser extent, I would as well say, I think we need meaning that we need to do better. We surely need to do better in that line as well, in the same regard. That is why my guild, the 86th Guild of Makerere University, we want to see how best we amend the constitution, because where you'll find we have 27 schools in Makerere, and of these 27 schools, our house, remember we have guild representative council. These guild representative councils, the GRCs, come from schools, they come from halls of residence as well. You will find that in our house has roughly 94 members, but out of the 94 members, you'll find we have less than 20 females. So that alone shows me that the participation is still limited. Perhaps what could be causing the limited participation? Is it that these people are in one way or the other are timid? I don't know. Are they timid to run? Because those GRCs at school level, it's okay. A male will be running against a female. But on very many occasions, you find that females are actually not participating. I think one of the things we need to do, if we are to really achieve equality, if we are to perceive that, we need to first ensure equity. let us first ensure equity if we are to achieve the equality. Let us see that we offer them a more fertile ground. That is why I've told you, for us, we want to amend our constitution to see that out of the two GRCs that each school is supposed to send, those are 2 slots. We have slot 1 and slot 2. We want to see to it that we make it crystal clear that slot 1 is for females. Only females will be running for GRC in slot 1. Slot 2 is for strictly males. Only males will be running for GRC on slot 2. So we shall have reduced the chances of males competing with females for the same post, save for the big ones like guild presidency. Yeah, that is what I think. I think we just need to do better.
There are questions, yes, but thank you very much. We shall be looking at them later. Thank you, Excellent Ssempijja. Yes,
Okay.
H.E. Agaba. You have heard from MUBS, we have heard from MUBS. How is it at UCU? Is the ground at UCU leveled?
Thank you so much, sir. As the topic of today, I would like to say the largest percentage is to the fact that the ground is leveled. Though there are always those loopholes, it's not 100%. There's a certain percentage that remains, which needs to be addressed. It's good that I'm going to submit on behalf of the private institutions. Apparently, people that have submitted are from public institutions. So you find that the setup is totally different from when you come this side in the private institutions. And even in the private institutions, you have private religious inclined institutions and also have private business inclined institutions, which do not depend on religion. A good example is the fact that in the private institutions, for example, the religious inclined institutions, when you go to IUIU-Female, you cannot become a guild president at IUIU-Female when you're a Christian. The same when you come back to Uganda Christian University, you cannot become a guild president when you're a Muslim at a Christian university. All these are stipulated in the constitutions of these institutions. Something which maybe students look at and it seems not to be right in one or the other because it limits the other regions from participating. It has been a very big debate, but also when you go back to primary or when you go back to secondary schools, for example, when I was at Gombe SS, it was a Muslim school in Butambala. I wanted to contest for head prefect, but that position was gazetted for only a Muslim, the sheikhs in the school. So there are a lot of things, but though it's a smaller percentage, because when you look at them, you'll find there's Nkozi, there's UCU, there's Mbare, IUIU, so it's a small thing. Then when you come back to the public institutions, I look at the fact that the ground is leveled, but when you look at those students that maybe do not have political parties, you find NOP at MOOC is strong. You go to, let's say, MUBS, NLM is strong. You go to another university, another political party, they say DP is strong. But there's that student who is not so much into political parties. They find it so difficult to break through politically and get involved in the university politics. So that's why you see some people have gone to the extent of suggesting that the political party politics in universities should be scrapped off or in institutions of learning. But when you come back to our schools in private institutions, for example, the religious institutions, we do not very much indulge into the political party politics. For example, at UCU, no one is allowed to incline to a political party as they are contesting. So this gives students a level ground to participate and contest. Sometimes you find a student is capable, but because they are from a weaker political party, they cannot make it through. Or someone is weak, but from a strong political party, and you find students are being denied the chance of having capable leaders simply because of political parties. So that is my submission. And maybe that's when you understand properly that public universities, the level of participation is totally different from the private institutions in regards to the political ground. the political ground in private universities may look somehow not tougher compared to the public universities, because in the public universities, they embrace the political party, political dispensation. And yet here in our private institutions, most of them, they tend not to participate in these political parties because they have a lot of effect on these institutions. Thank you so much. I submit.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Excellency. You have, in a wise manner, spoken as a commentator and avoided giving your personal opinion. I'll be probing you more on some of the issues you have raised. But I've been informed that you have been joined by His Excellency Robinson Ogwang, the Chief President of MUBS. Your Excellency, you're welcome. Would you kindly turn on your video and introduce yourself formally? Ogwang, can you hear me? Yes, I see. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, comrade. I am on the go, but I'm following the discussion so well. My name is Robinson, President of MUBS. Just be following, so you might forgive me for not constantly engaging. But when I need to come in, I will surely join in. Thank you.
All right, it's understandable since I've been informed that you have just been asked to step in for someone. We are glad to have you on board. And in case at any point you want to chip in, please. So far, we have heard from all of you, and there are issues that have arisen. And so you're going to allow me to run back to our order. I noticed that Her Excellency Nantongo has a poor network. She has been on and off. I actually do not know whether we now have her in the meeting. I hope she's able. Oh, yes, she's online. Yes, Ms. Nantongo, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, yeah, so let's have your introductory remark. You seem now to be stepping.
Thank you very much once again for this platform. And I usually want it to, actually, I usually love it when I'm one of the people discussing issues of national importance. And when it comes to students' participation, definitely the young are the tomorrow. So I personally, my personal opinion, the question is there that level ground in the political participation in universities? To me, to a larger extent, the answer is no. Because when we look at leadership in a broader perspective, leadership is a journey. And by this, we mean that it has to be done from the lower levels of education. And if our secondary schools or our primary schools are not doing good in mentoring these people to make them those responsible people that will be able to participate in the affairs in the university, then definitely there is that gap that actually affects the participation of students in universities. And the thing is actually, this question is two-sided. Yes, it has a yes side and a no side. And to me, as I actually earlier said, it's a no to a larger extent. Because when these people are not actually groomed, trust me, no one will participate in the university politics if this person doesn't have that leadership zeal from the background, the education background. Then there is also that problem of the intervention of the university administration in the issue students. I saw this, I made some investigation, though I didn't reach the ground. But to me, I think the university intervened in the affairs that actually would be student affairs. So it also when administration comes in to tell you as a person in which political participation is actually done in universities. Then actually, I look at the national bodies. I'm glad that we have a candidate, Honorable Julia Muhumuza, who wants the vice president seat. So, Madam, you also have a challenge. That is, if you make it to the seat we want, because as a woman, I actually, sometimes I act feminist. I like women on top. So, to be honest, the issue of national bodies, these bodies have not done enough. For example, the UNSA. We look at the UNSA as the Uganda National Students Association. And if someone is not the guild president or the guild speaker or any person appointed by the guild president to represent, I'm talking about the delegates who are supposed to vote in for UNSA. As students, if you're not so much into politics, you will not know that there is a body called UNSA. Yet it stands for all students. So these bodies are not doing enough. Because if they are standing and they are doing well on ground, that means they are going to make these students stand in these big offices. For example, the guild president or the guild speaker, in hope that they will actually get a seat, maybe in the UNSA secretariat. So these bodies are also not doing enough to level this ground because it's two-way. And they also have a bigger part in building this. Then we also look at the patriarchy. Mrs. Julia mentioned that, and to phrase it well, the way she had talked about it, near time it's for example, in some women courageous enough to sit in that seat, they will never see that boldness in you. And patriarchy not only exists in these universities, in these Islamic or in these religious institutions, it exists in all sectors. Let me say it's still a national or a worldwide problem. So patriarchy brings in the fact that with the feminists, sometimes we also act accordingly, and we tend to be like we want to eliminate male, but it's just because of that fear. The patriarchy is still at the peak, and the emancipation is still weaker. The women emancipation is still weaker, and it can't fight the patriarchy. So it limits the student participation in the political arena. So
thank you. Yes. Finally,
also look at the conclude.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, let me conclude.
Yeah,
we look at the political involvement of political parties. These political parties in institutions where they do operate, unlucky enough, IUIU is a non-partisan university. We look at these political parties that instead of standing, let me say, the opposition parties, instead of joining and fighting, for example, let me say a cabinet government, they tend to clash each other. So the opposition itself is destroying itself, and it will obviously bring in those clashes and the fear for the students to actually participate, thinking that maybe when I stand in FDC or no, there will be that clash, and they know me, the FDC will not vote me. So it actually also affects that. So thank you very much for the floor.
Yeah, thank you for your submission. Very many questions there. I'll come to them, but if you can allow me now, finally, hear from His Excellency Mbaziira John. You have 3 minutes, sir. Your Excellency Mbaziira, yes.
Thank you so much. Once again, I'm Mbaziira John Snr, Guild President Kyambogo University. When we talk about political participation, I want to understand politics as a term of holding an office. And participation, that could be what we use those offices for, most especially in extending services, advocacy, or lobbying for the students. And universities being the epitome of education, I want to believe they have a role to play in advocacy for the public itself, in advocacy for the students themselves, and in advocacy for the universities themselves. However, from the revolutionary perspective, I want to believe there has been deliberate efforts by the government to belittle the debate or to belittle the political participation of students, most especially in the leadership or the governance of the nation. I want to believe, as you said, Comrade Matanda, that students have been at the center, most especially of influencing governance. And when we talk about political participation, the ground is there, but the ground is not leveled. I will start from the state point of view or the national point of view. You realize that the state itself has been at a front line in taking part in influencing leaderships within these various institutions, with the fears of getting people who can boldly come out and put a check on government in regards to what transpires within our institutions. You will also realize that there has been a limitation to some of the university leaders to access the university, the government systems and the structures. I want to tell you today, if you belong to political opposition side, you will not be given access to the government systems or structures. As someone has talked about WONSA, but last time we saw people who belonged to People Power Wing, all of them were denied access. The sorts of His Excellency Katerega, His Excellency Tundulu, and other colleagues, they were whisked away from the council meeting of WONSA. So we are seeing that literally there is no leveled ground of political participation in that sort of view. But once still, even when I go back to the universities themselves, there has been a deliberate effort for them to limit space or participation in the politics of the day. I mean, within our respective institutions. For a matter of fact, you realize that our leadership has been taken for sake. However, these positions which we are holding, they are gazetted by the legal instruments. I want to believe that the Tertiary Institutions Act was enacted by Parliament itself. If I talk about the National Youth Policy, talks about representation in higher institutions of learning, but I want to believe it is just for sake. That when you reach there, even themselves, they will tell you, you're not going to do much, because they know you'll be there for a short period of time and you go away. That indicates that they rarely capture the views or the ideas of the students. The plans which students may put on board are more so to advocate for the university itself, to advocate for the public, and to advocate for the students themselves. So you realize that even the government has gone far ahead to use some of these cadres within our universities to make sure that the ground is not leveled, or to frustrate some of the people who come up to take part in the politics of the day. There has been a talk about political parties. I want to believe by the law of Uganda, we have a right to associate with any political organization. So I, being a Kyambogo University student, I don't see any regulation that bounds me or that stops me from identifying with any political organization, given it is my right by the Constitution of Uganda, which it's ought to be abided by any citizen of Uganda. So I don't want to believe we have institutions which are having laws above those ones of Uganda. So in that perspective, I want to bring it to your notice that within these institutions themselves, there is no leveled participation, but the ground is there. But the ground is not leveled to each and every individual. Rather, it would be every citizen is right, that to those who want to come out independent, they come out independent. Those who want to come out identifying with the political organizations, they do so. Because I want to believe at the end of the day, all of us are Ugandans who have a part to play in influencing the governance of the nation. We want to believe when they are passing a budget for education, at the end of the day, we are affected. We want to believe that if the health system is corrupt, still our electorates or our fellow students, even us ourselves, at the end of the day, we are victims of such circumstances. That's why we should not be limited in identifying with any group of people which comes out to advocate for the good of the citizens of Uganda. But even when I go still further to the students' community itself, I'm looking at it in three aspects. The students, we are trying to get a leveled ground to an extent that when you come in a political party, they can embrace you. When you come maybe independent, they can embrace you. I want to believe that not all guild presidents in Uganda belong to specific political parties. Some are independent, others belong to political organization. So students are trying to give that leveled ground. Maybe it could be in the gender aspect where we are still having challenges. For example, in the race which we ran where I was elected as a guild president, we didn't have any female contestant. which shows that there is a gap in that. And I want to believe that has been caused by the perception of the people or the community, and it has been also from the perception and the actions of the government itself, that if you put such a kind of restrictions, intimidation and frustration, when we look at a female gender, it is so sensitive. Many will fear to come out to stand for what they believe in, for the fears that they may be victimized at the end of the day. But I want to believe that when you look at our campaigns, many female students come out to support the ideologies or the agendas we be pushing. But the question comes in, why don't they take the boldness to come out and stand on the forefront to push the agendas? I want to believe it is this frustration of the system which has been brought by the state and the cadres of the state within these institutions, which are limiting the political participation of the students as regards to what they believe in. Because we want to believe this time round, we are shifting a step in influencing what happens in our nation. The problems in Makerere, the problems in Mbaziira University, the problems in Gulu University, they are the same. Even when some institutions are private, but these problems are the same. So if they are same, it means that we have a common problem and it is having a common source. That's why we realize that within our institutions, we cannot do much. Because if we talk about the government subvention to our institutions, it is very low. If we talk about where we pay tuition right now to URA, it is a general problem. So that's why it calls for some boldness, for someone to come out boldly to hit through the barriers in terms of advocacy. I want to believe that limits the female gender in taking part. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Excellency. Of course, using words like revolutionary and drawing us in your conclusion, I see. I was worried. I felt like you were about to say way. But thank you for that submission. And I think we have heard from all the presidents by way of introductory remarks. And so now I'm going to return to Your Excellency Julia Muhumuza. And there is an issue that you started with, but which has come through, the submission. I had it from Her Excellency Nantongo. I've also just had it from His Excellency Mbaziira. The issue of female participation. The women empowerment movement or the feminist movement in Uganda has been around for a while, since the 1980s. And I've actually had people who are now arguing that maybe there is over empowerment for the girl child. That's about time people started thinking about the boy child. Listening to the conversation here from Your Excellency, it appears we are not yet there. In fact, His Excellency Mbaziira says in their race at Kyambogo, there was no female candidate. And he also did state that despite the ladies having higher numbers at MUBS, you have only so far had a single female build president. And so I'm going to throw this question back to you. Where actually is the problem? Why is it that, like His Excellency Mbaziira said, ladies are not coming up to occupy these spaces? And if they are coming up, what challenges are they facing? We now need to call them out, mention them out, and maybe what can we do to change the dynamic? Yes, Your Excellency.
Thank you. This is a very important aspect to discuss, because it is a question that cuts across even national politics, but it is worse in our students' leadership, because even from high school, you're going to find it a rare case to have a head prefect who is female, unless it is a female school. So I feel like the problem starts from grassroots. Yes, we have these female organizations, we have these many feminists always advocating for empowerment. We feel like, yes, there is empowerment, but in action says that empowerment is not into action. We would have these organizations get to the grassroots, get to primary schools, get to secondary schools, to try and see that they can push girls to take up space, to be at the forefront of leadership. like His Excellency Mbaziira said, we girls, even in politics, when you come to the political rallies, you will see that majority of girls are there. Like they are willing to do anything for you to be there. But in actual sense, you keep asking yourself, why don't they take up space? Myself, when I choose to take up space, then the females I looked up to when I joined the institution, I asked me, are you sure this is what you should do? Maybe you should back up a candidate and then you get to be vice president. So there is so much to do with mindset and stereotypes. Even with us girls ourselves, there is empowerment, but we actually believe that we cannot be at the forefront, or when we take up space, we will not be supported. And then
I actually remember when I asked you to speak fast, you said you are hoping I don't ask you to speak fast. Is that one of the symptoms of that mindset?
Exactly. There is something to do with mindset and stereotypes, especially it gets worse when it comes from our fellow gender, like our own gender. The females themselves are not willing to support other females for very stupid reasons, sorry to say. So in the end, what we need to do is, like I said, I believe that we can have this solved if we have increased participation of females in this. This is one way of changing the mindset. For example, if the next guild race we see about 3 ladies contesting, so now it's not about the only female in the race or what can she put on the table, but now we're trying to see three females come out and they're trying to show that yes, this needs to be advocated for. So I feel like more or increased participation is one of the ways to change this mindset, and also the fact that we need to pay attention to grassroots. We do not have to look at university and start concluding, yet even the schools we are coming from, girls are known for being head girls. Like, you cannot be head perfect. Why so? So I feel like these organizations need to do so much of now going back to the grassroots and doing something about it. Even the females that have made it, do not stop at making it. If you have become the guild president, if you have become the president of maybe National Youth Council or UNSA, make it a point to groom people, mentor people, show them that it is possible. Share with them your experience, how you went about the stereotypes, the mindsets, and what exactly you did to get to where you did. And I feel like this is more of mentoring and helping many girls to come up and take up space. Thank you.
Thank you. There's something else that came out in your discussion when you said one of the barriers is when people affiliate themselves to weaker parties. And I was thinking that should be a personal choice. Why would one affiliate themselves with a weaker party? But for the bigger debate, there are people who believe that student politics should not be run on a partisan line. But there are also those like His Excellency Bashira who say that, come on, our constitution allows us to associate. And if I'm above 18, why should you ban me from running on a political party platform? I know for a fact that even in UNSA, partisan participation is not allowed. And having attended Islamic University in Uganda, I know very well that Islamic University, UCU, and other, especially private universities, do not allow their students to run on a political party platform. In public institutions, it's allowed. I see people doing that. But what are your own views? Do you think it's wise for student leaders to run on partisan ground, or is it something you also feel is not important?
I think, I honestly think, like honest opinion, we do not need to really affiliate ourselves to political parties. Yes, we have the right, but it should not be a factor in our engagement in students' leadership, because you realize in the end, my argument lies on students' activism. If you make it to be a leader, like His Excellency Mbaziira said, and you're in the opposition, in a time where you're going to be being a student's activist, they're going to mistake that for you pushing maybe the opposition agenda or sort of. So in the end, the students' activism is pushed on the wall because of affiliations of political parties. And then again, one thing about political parties, I was reading an article that says it comes with 4 associative actions. Participation in that they can support you, and but in the end, you are attached to a party. Even as you serve, you make sure you are serving in line with the agenda of the party, because you see, it is so rare for it is very rare for a person affiliated to a ruling party to again oppose the party. So in the end, I feel like us attaching ourselves to political parties, which is okay because we have a right, is being a limitation to ourselves. In the end, we are not achieving the sole aim. We are in leadership. Students' leadership is basically there for the students. And if the political party comes into play, and also the government itself is trying to sabotage any form of opposition, because even opposition is engaged. So in the end, I feel like the national aspect is being engaged in our affairs, and we are not going to be in position to serve the students. Because if the opposition cadres say that they do not have access to the government systems, then we, the students that voted them, are not benefiting. I don't know if you get my line of argument. But in the end, we would like to have leaders that, for example, leaders that come from the religious institutions. They are voted, and in the end, they are serving students. They can access any structure. All they have to do is make sure the services are in place and they deliver to the students, which is not the case to us affiliated to political parties.
So Julia,
right?
Julia, is that a problem of partisan political party participation, or a problem of the toxic political environment in the country? Because why should I not be able to access a service because of my political party affiliation?
Well, it's actually not Uganda only. If you are to look at most of the African countries, it is a common thing occurs, and it is a reason why you go in Europe or you go to America and you do not see students' politics attached to any affiliations. Why? Because in the end, these unions are meant to advocate and actively engage in students' activism to air out the issues affecting the students, which cannot be achieved if we are attached to a political party. There is no way you expect to achieve 100% of service delivery in an African country as a student's leader, because you are attached. And then you see even these waves. I mean, imagine serving in a time where the opposition is having clashes with the ruling government, and maybe you are a leader attached to the opposition. How do you expect your service to go really? So I feel like in the end, we students leaders having partisan politics, we are limiting ourselves, or we are limiting even the people who entrusted us with mandate from achieving 100% of what they should achieve from us. And then one thing lastly about these political parties amongst the association actions, yes, that comes with them is control. When you are affiliated to a political party, there is that level of control that comes in, because I mean, these are the people that have supported you right away from when you join, well, right away from primaries through your election. Maybe you have made it, and there is that level of control that does not allow you to conflict with your political party. Like I said, it is a rare case for a person affiliated to a ruling party to again oppose the policies passed by the ruling party, which should not be the case, because in the end, we as leaders are interested in having as students have the best of service delivery. And if I am limited because of a political party or existence of partisan politics, then I feel like we are really going off track. And also, really, it is for over 10 million students, regardless of your political party. We really need, it should be a case of having us to serve for the best students of the best interests of students, and not questions of who is fighting who wants what, and so on and so forth. Thank you. About to submit.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. Allow me to cross over to His Excellency Ivan Ssempijja of Makerere. Seeing the line of thought you're pushing, in his submission, one of the first things he mentioned was that student politics is, he used the word epicenter. I found that to be very interesting. Say student politics, or politics in the university, is the epicenter for national politics. So Your Excellency Ssempijja, Her Excellency Muhumuza is arguing that for students to serve meaningfully, maybe they need to discard partisan participation. And I'm just wondering whether student politics should remain as an epicenter when we divorce the national political party framework from the politics. But as you answer that, I would also want to ask, there are people who suggested that actually the evils that are in national politics are now being imported into university. And yet from your discussion, you seem to suggest it's the university politics and student politics that should shape the national politics. So is it the student politics shaping the national politics, or is it the national politics shaping the student politics negatively in terms of commercialization and sectarianism and not being best? Should.
Okay, thank you so much, comrades. First and foremost, I'll begin by saying I don't agree with the former speaker, because I think I agree with my comrade Mbaziira John Snr, because we cannot really completely do away with with partisan politics. That I don't agree. That I do not agree, because these are, for example, I'll give an example. In Makerere, we have UID. Me have been a member of the UID ever since I joined in year one. That is the Uganda Young Democrats. And I strongly believe that once we are affiliated to political parties, they act as a portal. Those are actually our portals into the national framework. You cannot completely do away with them. We cannot do away with them. Putting that into consideration, and also putting into consideration the fact that however much I am a student, I remain a Ugandan, and I have a right of affiliation. I have a right of association. I have a right to associate myself with any form of political party, and that shouldn't be a basis.
Your Excellency, if I can make her point clearer, she's saying you have that right, but you exercising that right because of the bad politics, and she argued that it's not only in Uganda, but seems to be on the whole continent and world over. Because of the bad politics in the country, you exercising that right ends up becoming a disadvantage to the people you're supposed to serve, because then you're frustrated and you are affiliated and controlled. So students end up becoming victims. We would want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes. First and foremost, I would say my political affiliation, for example, my political affiliation shouldn't be a reason for you to deny me services I deserve as a student. That is number one. Because I would say, me personally, actually, it was a bit very difficult. It was a bit very difficult for me to be declared. Actually, it caused havoc everywhere, because for them, they were seemingly interested in another candidate, and unlike myself, that alone is really very bad, and I don't agree.
Exactly her point.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I'm coming. It was very difficult for them to actually declare me as the 86 guild president. Yet I had actually won by landslide. But that I would agree. But then these people actually thought it was really going to be very difficult to work with them. But so far I would gladly say my vice chancellor could be one of the happiest people on earth currently. So long as you stay in your line, I stay in my line. You understand? You do what you're supposed to do. You do what you ought to do by virtue of the powers you hold in your office. I do what I ought to do. We understand. I am pretty sure I'll stay in my political party with my affiliation, and you'll as well stay in your political party. Because currently, me and actually my university, me and my vice chancellor and the entire administration, we are actually, so far we are moving on so well. And a number of them keep on telling me, actually, we were very scared. It was really going to be very difficult to work with you. They thought it was really going to be totally difficult. But no, you just do what you ought to do. I do what I'm ought to do. We understand. I stay in my political party. You stay in yours, because you'll find for you an administrator. But then me personally, I'm not only looking at it in that direction. We understand. After this, when I leave this place, I am supposed to head into national politics, and that is a good portal for me as well. So just do what you're supposed to do. I do what I'm supposed to do. Once you get out of your lane, I'll surely get out of my lane, despite my political parties.
Yes, our minutes are fast spent, but I still needed to pick your mind. You said your government is moving to amend your constitution such that the two representatives are automatically male and female. And we have had conversations in this country around affirmative action in our national parliament, where people argue that women generally have not benefited from there being women members of parliament. In fact, some people argue that some of them have ended up becoming stumbling blocks for other female leaders to emerge. There have also been arguments that there are those who are there for being there's sake. They are there, but they are incompetent and are not able to push through any substance. So them being there is just a question of form rather than substance. Is that something you're trying to move the ivory tower into? Shouldn't people be judged based on their competence? Have we not supported the girl child enough, especially at Makerere? I've read several reports that show that there are more graduates from Makerere are now female. Female students are topping classes. So do they need that affirmative action? Can they compete favorably and take that space?
I think one of the reasons, it could be that one of the reasons that they're actually failing to cope in that line could be, fine, someone could be competent, but these females are naturally, we have to look at the larger picture. When I try to look at the larger picture and I try to look at our democracy index as Uganda, we are really doing very bad. And that is why in such a country like Uganda, which is a hybrid nation, this is a hybrid republic. When you try to look at political participation, generally political participation goes low in a hybrid. The more you tend to a dictatorship, political participation goes low automatically. And I would say that the larger picture, I would say that the larger national picture is actually, in one way or the other, is also barring the females from participating in one way or the other, because they could be failing to participate because of the entire chaos that is around the politics, that this nation, this entire republic, has actually decided to circumscribe around the political arena. So I personally, I think if we still have an opportunity to empower them more, let us look for ways of empowering them more. Let us look for ways of empowering them more. From the national perspective, from the national perspective, yes, from the national perspective, one of the reasons it is becoming that way is because, remember, from the national perspective, one person will come and be a woman MP for 5 years, and they will be eligible to be again. They will be eligible to be again. You understand? The more, unlike in our system, you will come, you are jealousy this year, next year you're leaving. We understand. So I believe this is better than the other, and this should not really be a direct replica of the national for the women. Yes.
Fair enough. Thank you, Your Excellency. I will now cross over to His Excellency Ken Agaba, who was very wise in sounded like I was just making commentary. So I'm now going to ask direct questions such that we get his view on some of these issues. Particularly, you did rightly mention that in the religious institutions like IUIU and UCU, you cannot run. For instance, if I attended UCU, it means I could not run as youth president. And if you're in IU, the same thing. And you say the students, and I must add that many social justice and human rights advocates and believers believe that this is unfair. Because if you have admitted me as a student, I should be able to enjoy all the rights that a student enjoys. Unless you're saying that on people to serve, but this is the leadership we are talking about. And I have a right as a student to participate. I have a right to grow my leadership credentials. And yet you're saying no, because you're Muslim, you cannot run here, or because you're Christian, you cannot run here. What are your views on this? Isn't this discrimination? Isn't this not leveling the ground?
Thank you so much, the moderator and the precurrent speakers, His Excellency Mbaziira John Snr, His Excellency Ssempijja, and one of my mentors, Julia, Your Excellency to be. Before I submit in regards to that, let me first indulge more on the issue of political parties. My submission may not deviate much from that of Julie, simply because, you know, having political parties in institutions is not, it's not a problem. People getting, let's say, affiliated to a certain political party, the problem comes in when interests of political parties are being carried on to student leaders to be implemented in institutions. What political parties do, they use student leaders for mass mobilization. So this attracts, let's say, the points, the gun points of the state into institutional politics because they believe it's the same leaders that they are going to use for mobilization. So that's why you see, at the end of the day, you find there's no way you can leave out the state from participating in institutional politics, simply because the state also has a political party that it is basing on or it is supporting. So if you're at Kyambogo and you're in FDC, that means the state has to enter in supporting the other person coming from the other party of the state. So that's why you see at times we reach and say maybe if the state has gone much into these institutional politics, why don't we have students having personal political parties, but they do not come out in institutions to say that me, I'm for this one, me, I'm for this one. And they come out, all of them, as students of an institution, having student-based ideas, not political party-based ideologies. Let me give you a certain simple baseline that we can use. NLM party had securing our future, not so? Now you find Agaba Kenneth Amponda contesting at UCU. I'm having my other My other ideology as an individual within the institution. So by the time you go to link up with securing the future of the nation and also my ideology within the university, I think that's where parties go wrong. Influencing leaders in institutions, at the same time wanting them that when we support you, at the end of the day, you must do something or dancing to our tunes. So I say, or I submit that political parties at times, we should limit them in these institutions so that students come when they have student-based ideas. I will submit also to recon about the submission of His Excellency Mbaziira when he said that we all have constitutional rights to belong to political parties. That's the fact, because I'm a law student, I may not deviate much from the law. The law clearly states that every person has the right to belong to a certain political organization, and the law is supreme. But we should not forget the fact that it's the same law that also puts for us measures on how we can solve these challenges that we have at let's say, organizational levels. How does this come in? When you come to a university like Uganda Christian University, we have what we call the Students' Charter that you sign when you enter into the university. When you sign the Students' Charter, which every university has, there are some, let's say, provisions that prohibit us or that limit us from such things. For example, for the political party, at Uganda Christian University, it's clearly stated that you cannot be a leader at Uganda Christian University and again submit in regards to outside politics, in regards to political parties.
Your Excellency, as a law student, are you just suggesting that the charter you sign while you enter the university is superior to national laws?
Mr. Moderator, it's not like that, but it's the same. It's the same national law, the Constitution, that also provides for, let's say, institutions to come out with means of, let's say, organizing and managing themselves. For example, if you come to an institution and you consent to the writings or to the laws of an institution, you will not come out again and say that you were, as long as you are sober, as long as you are not insane, you cannot come out later to say that for me, I deviate from the principles of this article.
I can put it to Your Excellency that the same law allows them to make those laws, but says that so long as they are not inconsistent with the constitution and the national laws.
Yes, sir.
So what do you say about that?
I think there we usually misunderstand that clause which says so long as they are not inconsistent with the supreme law. The supreme law is what is the constitution. But remember, in the constitution, it's the same constitution that provides for these institutions under statutes by the parliament. And remember, the parliament is given powers to make statutes that are to manage these institutions also. These institutions, by their charters, also they establish laws. It's not inconsistent simply because it was given powers to, as an institution, to make laws in which way that they can easily manage their students. That's how it's not inconsistent with the other one. And they have not stopped you from, let me clear this. They have not stopped Amponda from belonging to a political party. But they have, for purposes of running our institution, since, let's say, Uganda Christian University is an institution of Christianity and Christians or church is non-political partisan, please do not do this. So there is no way that you will come out and say that they are inconsistent with the constitution.
Okay, finally, Your Excellency, our time is fast spent, but I would want to hear what you said to people who say, you see, the university is like the last training ground for leaders before they go. And in fact, His Excellency Ssempijja was saying from the university is going to join mainstream politics. And one of the issues in our politics at the national level has been that people focus on individuals, on sectarianism, rather than issues, rather than ideology. So there are people who say ideological formation is supposed to happen at the university. So when you deny a student leader that, you have not prepared them for leadership in the community. So when will they learn about political ideology, about political movements, and when will they exercise that? Are you not setting us up for parliament and local councils and cabinets that are empty and not ideological?
Thank you so much for such a beautiful question. But Mr. Moderator, I would like to inform you that Uganda Christian University's laws not permitting me from participating into political party activities or something to do like that, that does not limit me from having a political ideology. I would like to call upon, let's say, students in different institutions to come out with their own developed political ideologies. What am I trying to say? We have, let's say, the Makerere Young Students Leaders Forum, a student-based political party, which is aimed at nurturing the students within an institution, but not specifically carrying the whole political party, NRM, and I bring it into the university that now this is the NRM chapter or something, or not carrying NUP and you carry it and say this is NUP chapter, this is NUP chapter, UCU, but having a Kyambogo-based political party that is founded by students. When students leave, the students come back to groom these young students that have student ideas, that have the politics within the institution, and also these bigger political personnel or political parties. They can be used as mentors, but not directly coming into the picture within institutions. So we can have such.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to commend you for that suggestion. I can actually put it to you that it happens in many countries, like in Nordic countries, where students start their own internal political parties that have ideology and run as political parties, but not necessarily aligned to the national parties. Maybe ideologically, but not administratively. Thank you. But our time is running, and allow me to run to High Excellency Nantongo. Bashira, are you on? Your network has been a bit unstable.
Yeah, I'm on.
Yes. Among others, you submitted that student bodies like UNSA and other entities have not done enough in being relevant. And so I want to use this opportunity to bring to you the question which some people sent in, saying that as student leaders, you have become irrelevant. If you're not aware, let me tell you that as the guild president, you're the chairperson of UNSA in your university. And so when you're pointing a finger at UNSA, know that you're pointing it at yourself. So this analysis that bodies like UNSA and maybe these student movements have not yet done enough to be relevant to students, I want to throw it back to you because you're a student leader. There are people who say as student leaders, you have become irrelevant, you're no longer useful, you're just puppets of university and institutional administrations and the government, and no longer the voice of students. What do you say to this? Where is the actual problem and what can be done? Because now here we are in need. You are UNSA and UNSA is you and your leaders in this institution. But students are saying you people are irrelevant. Why shouldn't you people resign? Hello, Your Excellency Nantongo.
Thank you very much for that wonderful question. I just like the last bit of it. Why shouldn't we resign? Yes, are you getting me?
Yes, we are getting you.
Yeah, my worry is, as I earlier explained, the issue is leadership, as any other field in the normal life. It's more of building that courage, that zeal, that morale to bring in more leaders, or more people to have interest in sitting or aspiring in the different offices. So my worry is, if the UNSA as a national body, because here we are talking about issues, because here right now we are representing the various universities. I might speak on behalf of IUIU-Female and Honorable, His Excellency Mr. Ssempijja might speak of Makerere, but an opportunity that we have a national umbrella that is uniting all the guild presidents, the speakers, and they are voting in leaders who are going to sit on that national seat to represent all students, regardless of political affiliation. So when I speak of UNSA, for example, I actually explained this in my first environment. If the environment is conducive enough and it's proper enough, it brings in that love for the people to come in and be like, oh yes, just like a farmer is more attracted to a fertile land to plant seeds. So leadership is the same as any other field, as I earlier mentioned. If the UNSA is dormant, and as I got after I was the guild president of IUIU-Female. That means if I was denied the chance, I wouldn't have known about UNSA. Yes, UNSA is not only an umbrella for universities, it is an umbrella for other students. It is an umbrella which is supposed to, because as a guild president is supposed to pick a delegate, this delegate might be a normal student of the university. So this person can get that love and be like, yes, I can be a leader in the UNSA body. Let it go deeper in these programs. There could be mentorship programs because it's more of leadership. We need leaders on board, and we're not having leaders on board. People are looking up to us, and we are not strong enough to build up that nation of strong leaders. We need support from our fellow leaders, and this has to be a united support. If we don't have it, then possibly we can't do anything. So that was my argument, that it's not a one-man task. It has to be a unity, and the fact that we all fall under the UNSA, that means it has to be our own task to fight and make sure that we go deep and
Unfortunately, High Excellency Nantongo's network seems to be very unstable. Are you still on? Can you hear us?
yes, I am. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, your network has been a bit unstable, but I was able to pick some of your submissions. But if I can just give you another minute. My point was that, well, you're talking about UNSA and whatever you're saying is valid. But I'm saying, people are saying it's not just UNSA, that generally all student leaders and student movements have become irrelevant. You're not doing your role, you're not playing your revolutionary role as expected, because change world over usually in society comes from students. And even here in Uganda, through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, we saw very many movements, including some of them that were global, like the Vietnam Solidarity movement of student leaders. All these are now non-existent. So my question to you was, since you raised the indolence of UNSA, I was wondering, why do you think this is the case? You seem to have explained a bit of it, but maybe now we should move to the way forward and say, okay, what can we do? What can be done to revive the student movement?
Yes, as I earlier mentioned, this is not a one-man task. I, for one, I introduced myself as a former candidate, and I guess I have done my role. I work with the feminist movement, that is the network of women in politics, and in the various, actually more or like 4 or 5 engagements have been passed. I've made sure that I take my girls. So as I earlier mentioned, these students have done my role. I've inspired many. And as I earlier mentioned, it's not a one-man task. So we need to unify as the guild president. So I was actually happy of certain innovation when all the guild presidents have been united and have formed a platform which has united all of us. I guess that also counts more sense, because we need that. We need it has to be an army. It's not supposed to be a one-man zone or a one-man task. So please, that is my submission to that. We need to just unify and be one and create that strong army to make sure that we do the recruitment from the grassroots. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. We are actually moving towards the end of our discussion, but His Excellency Ivan Ssempijja is requesting that he leaves. So, Your Excellency, maybe you could have your final remarks and then leave, because actually we are going to move to a round of questions, if any, and remarks. So you can make your remarks on the discussion generally and maybe share a way forward and then excuse yourself.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, just like I've told you, having other engagements in I think many of you could have seen that story running already about the stranded Makerere University students. And in that light, I will beg to leave. But otherwise, this was a really very good engagement, and I look up to more of the same. And yes, from the previous speaker, I am one kind of person who strongly believes in a generation. I strongly believe in a generation where this is our generation. That is why personally I had to get in touch with a few guild presidents. I requested them to see how best we can formulate a platform, maybe a WhatsApp platform, where we could all unite and discuss, share ideas, ideologies here and there. That is the only way we can surely make it. Because I liked so much the previous speaker, this lady from IUIU, and yeah, she said this is not a one-man thing. We are an army. Once we are together, I strongly believe we can surely achieve these things. Fine. I don't know if many of you are knowledgeable about the so-called SUBI group. If you've been following up on national politics, you've probably heard of the SUBI group. the Subi group, that is a group of the Betty Namboses, they have managed to get themselves to those positions one by one, just because they are one army. It is one army. So I kindly request, I urge all my colleagues here on this platform, please let us form our own army as well. Let us form our own army with others, because these are members with whom we share aspirations. We share aspirations and ambitions. So let us collect each other from the different walks of the world, because I am actually, not only have I managed to see how best I get in touch with all the guild presidents across the country, but I have also getting to an extra mile of getting others across other countries in Africa would really want it to make it continental, because I believe once we are an army, we shall greatly achieve. We shall come up with ideas, and in the long run, because UNSA had really lost value, that is the honest truth, it is slowly losing value, because very many people now think people are now connected to, in order for you to be able to get through UNSA, you must be connected to NRM, because some generals are already taking interest in UNSA. In UNSA, a few members were asking me, because I think I had a few well-wishers who had started circulating my message somewhere, my photo that I was running for UNSA president. So people got in touch with me. They're like, "Say, are you running for UNSA president?" I was like, no, but they're like, "We don't really think it is a good idea, because UNSA is entirely NRM. You get, it is for the state." So things of that kind. So we need to see how best we revive that. But we can do that because we are the delegates in UNSA. We as the guild presidents, the guild speakers, we are the delegates. Once for us, we have our own platform outside that, we can surely see how best we revive the glory of UNSA. Thank you so much for God and my country. Ivan Ssempijja is my name.
Yeah, thank you, Ivan. All the best. And thank you for your time and your kind thoughts. I hope that your colleagues have taken note, and our secretary is also taking note of the recommendations that way forward. All the best. So we are moving towards the end of our discussion. We are going to have a round of conclusive remarks and recommendations that way forward. Because certainly we are not here just to lament. But before we do that, I do not know if any one of you has a question or comment coming from the discussion we have had. As your colleagues were submitting, you might have had a question to put across. I'm allowing about a minute for you to put across that question. Does anyone have a question or comment so far before we make our conclusive remark?
Yes, I do have a comment. I do have a comment.
Please go on. Yes. You have a minute to make that.
Oh, okay, please. I've been following up the conversation from my colleagues. I'm much interested in the issue of the identification with the political parties. Still from the legal perspective, political parties are put by the rule of law, that is the constitution, and they are put for Ugandans, of which we are Ugandans, are bona fide citizens to take part in any proceedings within the country. And I want to believe still unjust laws exist, even unjust policies which are subject to be challenged at any time. So not all policies are conclusive. Most importantly, if they are against the human rights or the law of natural justice, we take note of that. But however, when we look at the leadership in institutions, it is more of advocacy. Our serving lies in advocacy, because I don't want to believe that there is any guild president who has a budget to put up an infrastructure, maybe a lecture block within an institution, maybe who has a budget to pay lecturers or increase the number of lecturers. Our representation lies in making sure that whatever has been budgeted or within the strategic plan of these institutions, I want to believe institutions have strategic plans which are derived from the strategic plan of the Ministry of Education, which runs for a given number of years. If we are to exist for a short period of time, like 1 year, as legally mandated, what do? Our role should be in ensuring that whatever the university has to do, most importantly on the side of the students, it is put in place. So I want to embrace the leadership in the style of advocacy and more of lobbying. That minimizes my fears that the government can frustrate you if you don't identify with it or if you identify with another political wing. And that one raises a question, reason being that how comes that maybe 4,000 students can come to vote for a candidate who is identifying with an opposition political organization. And if really the agenda of the political organizations, I mean the oppositions, is not in favor of the Ugandans or our education system, I don't want to believe that intellectuals of the university can entrust you with the leadership. I want to believe most of us have come out to take up these leadership positions because of a number of issues which are pressing us. And that's why we are coming out to mobilize, organize our fellow students to raise the voices, maybe the government to take its role. I don't want to believe that the agendas of these political organizations are wrong. No, they are coming out because those which are existence have failed to meet the expectations of the community or the public itself. That's why they are bringing alternatives and we are advocating for the same alternatives. I ran a campaign which was based on policy. We have policies in place, some of which are statutes of parliament, but you find that these universities themselves deliberately do not implement them for the purposes of meeting their selfish interests. So I want to believe we have a role to play in awakening the brains of other people. Because as I'm there for 1 year, I may not do it all, but I have a task to bring it to the attention of the people that this is what the strategic plan of the university says, this is what the budgeting processes do, this is what this policy does, and at the end of the day, the students themselves are in a position to take up the mantle to exploit other windows of advocacy in addressing their problems. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much. You realize that I did not interrupt you even after the minute expired because I realized you actually make the concluding remarks. So just to put your note, I want to be coming back to you. If there is anything more you want to say, you'd have to say it now. Other than that, thank you very much for those very
before I leave, yes. For that sake, yes. Our way forward, yes. Our way forward should be in building an ideological leadership. Whereas we may try to mobilize ourselves, if there is not any single ideology we are rallying upon, then at the end of the day, we shall not be in position to pursue it. That's why a body like WUNSA has lost it, because there is no an agenda, a specific agenda they are pushing for the nation or for the students themselves. But if we can embrace that ideological perspective that shares this address of the problems among the various institutions, I want to believe even if we leave, those who will step in our shoes will be in a position to push the same ideology. But if we are standing on ideologies based into the internal problems of our institutions, then it's going to be hard, and that's why the students' movements have been losing the direction. I thank you so much. Stay blessed.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Mbaziira John. Your Excellency Julia Muhumuza, your concluding remarks. A lot of issues have come up. Agenda issues, political partisan issues, being disjointed as student movement, infiltration by external elements, all those are issues. So by way forward, how do you conclude?
First of all, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity. And it's been an honor and a humbling experience to share a platform with His Excellencies and Her Excellence. And then all that has been shared is so insightful. And about the topic, we can always keep engaging, but these are some of the things that if need to be changed, cannot be changed overnight. But we as leaders, if we continue to have our opinions and, like he said, ideology, if we have an ideology about something and try to implement it through mentorship, these are some things that we can bypass in the way. That is why when I was starting, I said, these are the factors that make the field unleveled. usually, apart from, of course, religion, where the institution dictates. When it comes to gender, this is something that we can change or work on. When it comes to political parties, you can always find a way of actually being the best representation of students or actually making it there. So we need to all I would like to ask of us is in such a time of new normal, of course, we are home and so much is happening. We still need to be there for the people who entrusted us and do what we can to actually stand up for them so that we show them that actually there is still leadership participation. Even when schools are closed, we are still here for you in one way or the other. Other than that, it's been a pleasure. I beg to submit.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Yes, Your Excellency Agaba.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator, Your Excellencies, who have spared your time to participate in this conversation. I think it's been so phenomenal that we exchange ideas and understand a lot. But during the discussion, the major point of contestation was on the issue of political parties in institutions. My submission will still remain the same because it's the same point that has been the major point, the catching point. If we can make further research on these countries that have had universities or institutions which have detached themselves from political parties in regards to institutional politics, we shall come to understand that these countries, they are doing well in terms of leadership in their institutions. You find students have an independent point of view and they are working out to make sure that they deliver to the students. Nonetheless, we would wish to see a generation of leaders, for example, where students in the 21st century no longer judge a person based on their political party. We would wish to see in the 21st century where students in universities, higher learning institutions cannot judge a person because of their gender in regards to leadership. That's the best way we can make sure that we overlook all these things that we are discussing about. You can imagine a one Sir John Mbaziira and the one, let's say, Julia Muhumuza or Amponda, if we come together like we have been discussing, but not saying that this one is from FDC, not saying that I cannot match with this one because they are NLM, with the same brains we come together and start fronting the same ideas for the same cause. I think those are among the reasons as to why even UNSA has failed. Maybe they are looking at themselves as different people. We have different people from green, from yellow, from blue, from everything. But if we come together as a generation and we know our problems, our challenges, trust me, believe me, everything is going to go on well. Everything is going to, you're going to see the rights and also the policies in regards to the education policy of this sector of this nation. They are going to change. So I call upon all student leaders that let's know ourselves and come out loudly and speak out loudly to see that we make a change.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Amponda. Your Excellency Nantongo, final remarks.
Thank you very much. I thank the Almighty Allah who has enabled us to gather here in good faith. I thank my colleagues, Your Excellencies, in your capacity. Thank you for turning up, our hosts and the organizers of this. Thank you for taking it your responsibility to hear out the views on the various leadership perspectives in the universities. And generally, as I earlier mentioned to you, this is not a one-man task. I look up to a Uganda where leaders of higher institutions unify under one umbrella and have a common agenda, not only to work for the universities where they belong, rather to impact on their nation, because as leaders, you need to know that you're serving the entire nation. So I look up to a Uganda where we shall have to unify regardless of our political affiliations, because I, for one, yes, I stood under the FDC ticket, FDC, but then I have people of NRM, I talk to people of NUPA. Very many people are my friends, including her, the Honorable Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Nabanja. They are all my good friends, but then they are all NRM. So I look up to a Uganda where political affiliations don't hinder heterogeneous state. Then why not live in a Uganda where partisan politics is not a problem and it's not actually hindering progress and working for the people who might have trusted you with power? Then the next issue, I look up to a Uganda where patriarchy is not actually fighting too much the women emancipation.
Yes, we have about 30 seconds to exit.
20 positions. So I'm glad whenever this person is trusted with office, this person definitely works as a mother. And I guess putting women in offices of importance, I guess my bosses, your excellencies, try to recruit your some women in your cabinet for effective work. Thank you very much for God and my country.
Great, great. Thank you very much. I see that His Excellency Ogwang has joined again. Your Excellency, you found us concluding. I don't know if you want to say something within 30 seconds because our time is up. We have not had an opportunity to hear much from you, but you promised that you would follow. Possibly, maybe we can hear from you next time and in the WhatsApp group. Are you on? Are we able to just hear your voice or have anything? 30 seconds. Robinson.
Yes, please. Hello.
Yes, we can't hear you clearly. Your network is bad and our time is fast spent, so I'm sorry. Also take this opportunity to thank all of you for allowing to be part of this panel and for sharing your thoughts. Hopefully we can build a better student movement and eventually build a better country. I want to thank the Center for Constitutional Governance for gathering this. And I think this is just the beginning of the very many engagements we are going to have that will move to actions. And possibly, like all of you have said in your concluding remarks, we say better country. As a senior student leader, I will encourage all of you to keep building your capacity. Please read, please listen to good content such that we speak from informed points of view and we take from the action. Also try to think outside the box. I agree with His Excellency the President of Kyambogo that as a student leader, your mandate goes beyond just your university. So think global, think national, and look at yourself as a hope for very many young people out there. And finally, I would ask you to sacrifice. My experience with student leadership shows that if you can have any impact, you're going to have to sacrifice at any level. And with this, I think all hope is not lost. Over to you, Damian. I think on our end, we are done here. I wish you all the best.